If you've checked your bank account again today and your Social Security deposit still hasn't shown up, you're not alone. Across the country, seniors are doing the same thing, refreshing bank apps, rechecking balances, asking the same question quietly to themselves. Is this just timing, or did something go wrong? Here's the most important thing to know right now. The money you're waiting for has already been authorized and released. This is no longer about approval or eligibility. What's happening now is about how payments move through the system and why Monday morning matters far more than midnight. In this video, we're breaking down what's really happening, why the delay feels so unsettling, and what you can realistically expect next. Why your Social Security deposit hasn't appeared yet. If your Social Security deposit hasn't arrived when you expected it to, the worry you feel is completely understandable. When you live on a fixed income, timing isn't a small detail. Rent doesn't wait. Groceries don't pause. Prescriptions still need to be filled. So when a payment you depend on arrives late, even briefly, it doesn't feel like a delay. It feels like the ground shifts under your feet. But here's the clear reality. The payment you're waiting for has already been authorized and released. It is not under review. It is not waiting on a decision, and it is not being reconsidered. At this stage, the issue is processing and timing, not eligibility. Over the last several days, a confirmed deposit wave entered the federal payment system. Once that happens, the money is committed. From that point forward, it's no longer about approval. It's about how fast each bank completes its posting cycle. That's where confusion begins. Some banks post deposits earlier, others post later. Some show pending deposits first. Others show nothing until the funds are fully settled. All of those outcomes are normal. The silence during this phase is what creates the most anxiety. When there's no visible update, worry fills the gap. But silence does not mean denial. It means the system is moving, just not all at once. Let me ask you, have you seen your Social Security deposit yet? Or are you still waiting? Comment posted if your money has arrived, or waiting if it hasn't. Your comment helps other seniors understand what's normal and reminds them they're not alone. What actually changed? Inside the federal payment system. To understand why so many Social Security deposits feel delayed at the same time, we need to look behind the scenes at what actually changed inside the federal payment system. Within the last 48 hours, a finalized Treasury payment file was transmitted into the automated federal clearing system. This is a critical step. Once a payment file reaches this stage, the decision phase is over. The money is no longer waiting for approval. It is no longer under review, and it cannot be stopped or sent back for reconsideration. From that moment forward, everything becomes technical, not administrative. The payment follows a fixed path. First, it moves through Treasury processing, then it enters federal settlement validation. After that, it flows through automated clearing channels before reaching each bank's internal posting system. This process does not happen as one instant drop into every account across the country. It happens in waves. That single detail explains most of the confusion seniors are experiencing right now. When people don't see their deposit immediately, it's easy to assume something went wrong. But in reality, the system is doing exactly what it's designed to do, moving very large volumes of money in controlled stages. Once the payment file is released, the money is already traveling. It is not being rechecked. It is not being reviewed again, and it is not missing. What varies is not eligibility or approval. What varies is how quickly each bank completes its internal posting cycle. Understanding this shift helps replace fear with facts and makes clear why timing, not denial, is the real story this week. Why banks post Social Security deposits at different times. One of the most stressful parts of a delayed Social Security deposit isn't the delay itself. It's the comparison. You hear from a neighbor that their money arrived. You read comments online saying deposits are already showing as pending. But when you check your own account, there's still nothing. That difference can feel personal, but it isn't. The truth is simple. Banks do not post Social Security deposits at the same time. Once funds leave the federal clearing system, they move into each bank's internal processing cycle. From there, every financial institution follows its own posting schedule. Most banks complete Social Security posting during early morning settlement windows, usually between 2 and 6 a.m. local time. Some banks post near the beginning of that window, Others wait until later in the cycle before making funds visible. That's why two people receiving the same type of Social Security benefit from the same deposit wave can see very different results at the same moment. One person may see a pending deposit with no funds available yet. Another may see the full amount already posted. A third may see nothing at all until later in the morning. All three situations are normal. None of them mean your payment is missing. None of them signal a denial or suspension. What matters most is this. Once the payment file is released, the money is already traveling. It is not being reviewed again. It is not being reconsidered. It is simply waiting for your bank's internal cycle to finish. Understanding this timing difference helps explain why patience, especially overnight, is often the most accurate response during large federal payment releases. Which Social Security payments are included in this deposit wave? At this point, many seniors are asking the same question. Is my payment actually part of this deposit wave? Based on the confirmed information from the federal payment system, this release is not limited to a small or unusual group. It covers a wide range of Social Security-related payments that were delayed earlier in the week. This includes standard retirement benefits, which make up the largest portion of Social Security payments nationwide. It also includes disability benefits, survivor benefits, and SSI-related deposits. What connects all of these payments is not eligibility or approval, it's timing. Earlier in the week, the system experienced a reconciliation slowdown. During that period, payments that normally would have posted smoothly were temporarily held as the system corrected congestion. Once that issue was resolved, the decision was made to release those payments in bulk rather than one account at a time. That bulk release is important. It tells us this is not a series of individual fixes. It's a coordinated correction designed to restore stability across the entire payment system before the next settlement window opens. If your Social Security payment was delayed during that slowdown, it was not flagged, denied, or questioned. It simply became part of this larger release cycle. This also explains why deposits can appear suddenly after a period of silence. Large-scale settlement systems often work this way, quiet while adjustments are made, then fast movement once everything is aligned. The key takeaway is simple. If your Social Security payment normally arrives on schedule and was delayed earlier this week, it is very likely included in this deposit wave. Why the system went quiet, and why that silence felt so unsettling. For many seniors, the hardest part of this delay wasn't the money itself. It was the silence. When a payment doesn't arrive on time and there's no clear update, worry fills the space. Bank apps don't change. Automated phone systems offer no new information. And every hour that passes makes the situation feel heavier. That reaction is not impatience. It's a rational response. Fixed-income households depend on predictability. Bills don't pause. Prescriptions can't always be delayed. Groceries still need to be bought. When payments arrive on schedule, life feels manageable. When they don't, even briefly, stress rises quickly. During this specific delay, the federal payment system entered a quiet phase after congestion was detected. Processing slowed while reconciliation issues were corrected behind the scenes. From the outside, it looked like nothing was happening, but inside the system, work was ongoing. Once the issue was resolved, payments were released in bulk, not one by one. That approach restores system stability faster, but it creates a sharp contrast. A long period of silence followed by sudden movement. That contrast can be jarring, especially when you're waiting without information. It's important to understand that this silence never meant denial. Accounts were not forgotten. Payments were not flagged. They were simply paused briefly as part of a system-wide correction that is now being cleared. Knowing this helps reframe the experience and explains why the waiting felt so intense, even though the outcome was never in doubt. Who is most likely included in this Monday morning release? As the payment system moves into its final settlement phase, one question matters more than any other. Am I included in this release? Based on confirmed processing patterns, certain groups of beneficiaries are more strongly represented in this deposit wave. One of the largest groups includes seniors whose birthdays fall between the 11th and the 20th of the month. This group sits in the middle of the standard Social Security payment schedule. Because of that position, even short system slowdowns tend to affect them first. That timing detail is critical. When congestion occurs, payments scheduled for the middle of the cycle are often delayed before earlier or later groups feel any impact. That's why many people in this birthday range noticed the delay immediately. In addition, SSI recipients whose payments were temporarily held during recent system maintenance are included in this release. In these cases, eligibility was never in question. The delay was purely technical. There are also what the system refers to as cleanup deposits. These involve accounts that completed verification or administrative steps just after earlier cutoff times. When that happens, payments don't disappear. They simply move into the next available settlement window. The most important reassurance here is this: none of these accounts were denied, none were flagged, and none were placed under review. Every payment in this release was already approved. The only variable was timing. That's why Monday morning matters. It represents the point where scheduling catches up with authorization and delayed payments finally complete their journey into individual bank accounts. The midnight misunderstanding: why checking at 12 a.m. creates more anxiety. One of the most common and most stressful misunderstandings during a delayed Social Security deposit happens at midnight. Many seniors assume that the moment the date changes, their payment should appear. So they check their bank account at 12:01 a.m. When they see nothing, panic starts to creep in. Was I skipped? Did something go wrong? Is my payment missing? In reality, midnight is almost never when Social Security deposits are finalized. Most banks do not complete their posting process at 12 a.m. Instead, they post federal payments during early morning settlement cycles, usually between 2 and 6 a.m. local time. Some banks post near the beginning of that window, others post closer to the end. That means checking at midnight is often too early to tell you anything meaningful. Not seeing your deposit at that hour does not mean you were denied. It does not mean your payment was canceled, and it does not mean something went wrong. It simply means your bank has not completed its posting cycle yet. Unfortunately, repeatedly checking overnight often increases anxiety without providing clarity. The system isn't broken. It's just not designed to update in real time for individuals. A more accurate and healthier approach is simple: check once before going to bed, then check again after waking up in the morning. That timing aligns with how banks actually operate and helps reduce unnecessary stress during large-scale payment releases like this one. What the size of this deposit wave tells us about what's happening. One detail that offers strong reassurance right now is the size of this deposit wave. Processing data tied to this release shows billions of dollars moving across millions of individual Social Security payments. Numbers of that scale don't appear when the issue is small or isolated. They appear when the system is performing a deliberate, coordinated clearing action. This matters because it tells us exactly what kind of event this was and what it was not. This was not a handful of accounts with problems. It was not a series of individual errors, and it was not a selective delay. Instead, the federal payment system experienced congestion during reconciliation. To fix it properly, processing paused briefly, adjustments were made, and then payments were released in bulk. That bulk release is intentional. Large settlement systems are designed to restore stability first, then resume normal rhythm. When corrections are handled this way, movement often looks dramatic: a long, quiet period followed by sudden activity. That contrast can feel alarming if you're waiting without context. But the scale of this release confirms something important. By the time funds move at this level, decisions are already final. Money does not move in the billions unless data has been validated, locked in, and cleared for execution. At this stage, the system is no longer evaluating accounts. It is delivering funds. In other words, the size of this deposit wave isn't a warning sign. It's confirmation. It tells us the slowdown has been resolved, the backlog has been cleared, and the system is actively restoring predictability, exactly what it's designed to do after a disruption. Why your deposit amount might look slightly different than expected. As Social Security deposits begin to appear, some seniors notice something unexpected. The money arrives, but the amount isn't exactly what they were expecting. After a delay, that difference can feel alarming. It's natural to wonder whether a mistake was made or whether something was deducted incorrectly. In most cases, a small difference in the deposit amount does not indicate an error. What's often happening is that delayed adjustments are now being applied automatically instead of being corrected later. When the system catches up after congestion, multiple updates can align at the same time. For some beneficiaries, this includes adjustments related to Medicare premiums, assistance programs, or other deductions that normally operate quietly in the background. If those adjustments were delayed earlier in the week, they may now appear seamlessly folded into the payment. That can make the final number look unfamiliar, even though it's correct. Another important factor is how banks display deposits during processing. A pending amount may appear briefly, then change once settlement is finalized. That temporary display does not always reflect the official transaction. This is why relying solely on a bank app can be misleading during large payment releases. The most reliable source of information is your official Social Security payment history. That record shows whether a deposit is pending, posted, or adjusted, and reflects the confirmed transaction, not a temporary snapshot. A slightly different number doesn't automatically mean something went wrong. More often, it means the system is aligning accounts correctly after a delay. Understanding this helps prevent unnecessary worry at the exact moment relief should be setting in. What to expect overnight and into Monday morning. As this payment cycle moves into its final stage, timing becomes the last piece many seniors are waiting on. If your Social Security payment was part of the delayed group we've discussed, the most important thing to understand is this. The funds are no longer waiting on approval. They are already in settlement. At this stage, nothing is being reviewed. Nothing is being reconsidered. The only step remaining is your bank's internal posting process. For most financial institutions, the key window to watch is overnight into early Monday morning, typically between 2 and 6 a.m. local time. That's when banks complete their settlement cycles and make federal deposits visible to account holders. This is why checking at midnight often leads to confusion. If you look at your account at 12 a.m. and see nothing, that is not a denial. It is not a signal that something went wrong. It simply means your bank has not finished posting yet. As the morning progresses, deposits tend to appear, sometimes suddenly, sometimes in stages. Some people wake up to see the full amount already available. Others may see a pending status first, followed shortly by posted funds. Both outcomes are normal. What matters is that Monday morning represents resolution, not uncertainty. The delay began as a timing issue. It ends as a confirmed movement of funds already committed to beneficiaries. The waiting has been stressful, and that stress is valid. But at this point, the system is no longer paused. It's completing the final step of a process that is already underway. Why this delay does not mean suspensions, denials, or program changes. When a Social Security payment doesn't arrive on time, worries can escalate quickly. Some seniors begin to wonder if their benefits were suspended. Others fear a sudden denial, a paperwork problem, or even a program change they weren't told about. But the facts do not support those fears. Nothing about this deposit delay points to suspensions, denials, or changes in Social Security programs. If a benefit were suspended or denied, the process would look very different. Beneficiaries would receive notices, account statuses would change. There would be direct communication explaining what happened and why. That is not what we're seeing here. Instead, payment files were finalized and released into the federal settlement system. Once that happens, funds move forward, not backward. Payments don't quietly enter settlement if there's a problem with eligibility. This delay was caused by system-wide congestion, not individual account issues. When reconciliation slows at the federal level, payments pause briefly so errors don't multiply. Once the issue is corrected, funds are released in bulk. That's exactly what occurred. The structure of Social Security has not changed. Eligibility rules remain the same. Payment schedules remain intact. Only the timing shifted, not the rules. Understanding this distinction matters because fear grows when delays are misinterpreted. Knowing that this was a cleared backlog, not a policy action, helps restore confidence. The system may not always communicate clearly in real time, but its direction is clear here. Payments are moving forward, not being pulled away. How to confirm your payment status without increasing stress. When a Social Security deposit is delayed, the natural instinct is to check constantly. Bank apps, automated phone lines, online accounts over and over again. Unfortunately, that habit often increases stress without providing clearer answers. The most reliable way to confirm what's happening with your payment is not the temporary display in your bank app. It's your official Social Security payment history. That record reflects the actual transaction status, whether a payment is pending, posted, or adjusted. Bank apps, especially during overnight processing, may show incomplete or misleading snapshots that change once settlement finishes. Timing also matters more than most people realize. Checking repeatedly overnight rarely gives new information. Most banks complete Social Security posting during early morning settlement cycles, typically between 2 and 6 a.m. local time. Looking too early often leads to unnecessary worry when nothing meaningful has changed yet. A calmer and more accurate approach is simple. Check once before going to bed. Then check again after waking up in the morning. If your payment is part of the current release, that is when it is most likely to appear. If questions remain after normal posting hours, contacting Social Security should focus on confirmation, not urgency. At this stage, payments are already in motion. Representatives can confirm status, but they cannot speed up a bank's internal posting cycle. Knowing where to look and when helps you stay informed without feeling overwhelmed. Clarity doesn't come from constant checking. It comes from understanding the process. Why the stress you're feeling right now is completely valid. For many seniors, the most difficult part of this delay wasn't technical, it was emotional. When the system goes quiet and money doesn't arrive as expected, worry fills the space. That worry is not impatience. It's not overreaction. It's a rational response to uncertainty, especially when you depend on Social Security to cover daily needs. Fixed income households rely on predictability. Bills don't pause. Prescriptions can't be postponed indefinitely. Groceries still need to be paid for. So when a payment arrives late, even briefly, it can feel like stability is slipping away. Many seniors have shared that the hardest part wasn't even the money itself, it was the silence. No updates, no clear timeline, no immediate explanation. That silence creates stress because it removes control. And when control disappears, anxiety steps in to fill the gap. What's important to understand is this, that emotional reaction is completely valid. The delay you experienced was not caused by a personal mistake. Your account was not forgotten, and your benefits were not at risk. This was a system-wide congestion event, now being cleared, affecting millions of people at the same time. Recognizing that helps shift the experience from fear to perspective. The stress didn't come from failure. It came from waiting without information, and now that information is clear, that weight can begin to lift. What this deposit update tells us about stability going forward. After a delay like this, it's natural to ask a bigger question. Can I trust the system going forward? This deposit update gives us an important answer. What we saw was not a breakdown of Social Security payments, it was a system under strain and then corrected. When congestion occurred, the system did not push payments through blindly. It paused, reconciled the issue, and then released funds in a coordinated way. That response matters. It tells us the system prioritized accuracy over speed. Large federal payment systems are designed to protect against errors that could affect millions of people at once. When something slows down, the safest move is often to pause briefly, fix the problem, and then resume in bulk. That's exactly what happened here. The result may have been uncomfortable, but it also shows resilience. Payments were not canceled, accounts were not disrupted long-term, and once the correction was complete, funds moved quickly toward beneficiaries. This is how stability is maintained, not by pretending disruptions don't happen, but by resolving them in a controlled way. For seniors relying on Social Security, that distinction is important. It means delays can occur, but they are not signs of collapse or loss of control. Instead, they reflect a system designed to handle massive scale responsibly. This update doesn't point to growing instability. It points to a system that encountered friction and then restored balance. And that context matters as we look ahead beyond this week toward the next payment cycle. The final takeaway, this was a delay, not a denial. When you step back and look at everything together, the situation becomes much clearer. What happened was not a denial. It was not a suspension. And it was not a change to Social Security programs. It was a delay caused by system-wide congestion that has now been corrected. The payments many seniors were waiting for were approved, authorized, and released. From that point forward, everything became a matter of processing, routing, and timing. And those steps do not happen all at once. That's why this experience felt so unsettling. Silence created uncertainty. Uncertainty created stress. Especially for people living on fixed incomes, predictability is not a luxury. It's a necessity. When money doesn't arrive as expected, even briefly, it can feel like stability is at risk. But the scale of this release tells the real story. Billions of dollars, millions of individual payments, A coordinated clearing action designed to restore normal payment flow, that doesn't signal trouble ahead. It signals resolution. If your deposit has arrived, that confirms the system is back in motion. If you're still waiting, the funds are already in settlement, not missing, not questioned, not pulled back. Monday morning represents the final stage of a process that is already underway. The most important thing to carry forward is this: delays can happen in large systems, but understanding how those systems work replaces fear with confidence. And confidence brings peace of mind. That clarity, more than anything else, is what turns waiting into reassurance and uncertainty into control.